So, one of the hardest parts of reading tarot is to read a card reversal. Reversal means that the card comes upside down or sometimes on its side, and it has a very different meaning. Now, I know that some tarot readers choose to only read the upright versions of a card. I think doing that can make you miss important messages from spirit because I've found that reverse card meanings are often very different. In fact, almost the opposite of the upright card. So, I'm going to break this down into four different ways that you can read a reversal. And the first one is just to think opposite. Reversals can often just be the opposite meaning of the upright card. We find that with the Fool. So, upright, the Fool means to take a leap, try something new, new beginning, go for it. But the reverse Fool says, slow your roll, like use caution. Don't do that. Don't jump into that new business venture. Don't quit your job and try to start, a side hustle. So this is an example of an exact opposite. Similarly, you have the Hierophant, and the upright is to respect traditions, marriage, go with the standard quo. And on the opposite end, when you reverse him, it is the opposite. So it's like we're going to challenge traditions, we're going to do things differently. Justice is very similar. So upright, you're going to court and you're going to win. And if you reverse it, you might have some problems with the legal system. And so then again, same thing. We have the opposite, and same with the Wheel of Fortune. So upright, we love to see it. It's good luck, new cycles, good karma, a change in fate in a positive way. And then when you reverse it around, you've got some bad luck coming. Your cycles are repeating, bad karma, karmic debt that's negative. So those are the opposites. The second way that you can read them are to not think as cards as bad or good necessarily, but a low vibe and a high vibe. And so the upright card usually has more of a high vibe, and then the reversals can be read in extremes, with one placement representing the positive and the other negative. Now, I will say it's important to remember that with tarot, the positive isn't always the upright. The high vibe isn't always the upright, but it usually is. Usually. So with the magician, we have somebody who's going to use their will to create good things, but in reverse, they're going to use their will to manipulate. With strength, upright, you're courageous, you're confident, but if you whip that around, the self esteem is low, the self respect is low. Temperance, upright, you got to be patient, you got to keep the peace. And then in reverse, somebody who avoids all conflict and they just lack boundaries in general. With the Lovers upright, we have this perfect union, this really great partnership, really good decisions. And then the Lovers on the other end, the low vibe of that is partnerships that are influenced by infidelity, that are, facing temptation. And the Death card. So upright, we got growth brought on by through destructive endings, and then in reverse it's like depression, anxiety, breakups, very unwanted change. And so there's the high vibe of what can happen with growth, and then the low vibe of what can happen if you have a hard time resisting change. You can also think of it as like a sliding scale. So the tarot cards, they have meanings, and sometimes they'll fall somewhere in between with a meaning sitting on each end. Okay, so the meaning of the card could be at either end or somewhere in between, not just extreme. So I think of this like the star. We have endless opportunities and hope, and then at the somewhere in between, and then the other end, the hope is lost and we're struggling to let go of doubt. With the sun, very optimistic about the future. You reverse it, you can be so optimistic that you're blind to the truth. The world, upright, we're feeling excited, you're achieving a lot, but then on the other end, you're kind of overburdened. And I kind of like this one for sliding scale because sometimes you might be both of these at the same time, right? So if you have a new job opportunity or an opportunity to move, of course you would feel excited about it. But then all of the responsibility that goes along with that may have you feeling kind of like the reversed version as well. And then we have the high priestess, trusting your inner voice, wisdom, and then sometimes with the reversal, you can let doubt get in the way. Your ego is kind of taking over. There's some confusion there. One of my favorite cards, the Hermit. There is self reflection and a spiritual path indicated by the upright, but in reverse, you're going down the wrong path because you're trying to hide who you are. And another way to look at this is just blocks and challenges. So, with the Empress upright, we're talking about fertility and financial abundance. But if it's a block or a challenge, the reversal would be trouble with getting pregnant, trouble attracting or keeping money. And the same for the Emperor. Emperor is stability, self control. But then you struggle with this, and you struggle with discipline, you struggle with self control, or maybe sometimes being too controlling with the reverse. We see this with the Devil, addiction, materialism upright. And then in the reverse, you need to reclaim your personal power. You need to detach. Then we have the Chariot. So we got victory and success. But if you whip it around, you're overcoming obstacles by channeling your will. So there's struggles there and you're going to overcome them. It's the same with the Hangman. So sometimes the upright card can be the struggle. So you're feeling trapped and uncertain. That's the struggle, right? And then the reversal is you detaching from negative feelings as you wait, and that's kind of a solution to the roadblock. And then we have the Moon, insecurity, fear, and then the reversal is overcoming that, overcoming the anxiety, overcoming the fear. And the same with the Tower. I have to say that I get the Tower in my life right before very difficult times. Right before my daughter had a car accident, right before my dad died. It's usually 2 days before, which can be kind of scary. But the message is always usually in reverse, and the message is about dealing with it's kind of focused on me dealing with whatever's going to happen in a positive way. Not trying to delay, not trying to resist, but dealing with it in a way that's healthy, I guess. Okay, well, those are the ways that I read reversals. And if you have a way that you know that I didn't mention, drop it in the comments. I'd also like to know, what is your favorite card to read in reverse? For me, it is probably Five of Cups. I love the reverse version of that.